Hey, everybody, welcome back to your Dawn of Autonomy podcast. I'm Dawn Zolda, your host, CEO of P3 Tech Consulting, and publisher at Autonomy Global. It is November, everybody, and we have dedicated this month to the theme of enablers 2 because last month we talked about other mission enablers. So there's so many cool technologies out there. We kind of dedicated 2 months to it. And this month is sponsored by Teal. They were at the first show of this month, so that was awesome. Check that out if you missed it. But today we have with us Brent Genesis. Brent is with Flight Insight out of Calgary, Canada. And we are so excited, Brent, to finally have you on the show.
Thanks, Don. It's great to be here. Appreciate you having me.
Absolutely. So, everybody, we were talking before the show. Brent swears he met me at Energy Drone Robotics Coalition Summit. I swear I met him at the Aerial Evolution Canada conference. I think in that little restaurant in Ottawa last year, with Genevieve, DeCamera from Suncor Energy. And what a great crowd, what a great group. But lots of things going on in Canada. If you guys aren't members of the Aerial Evolution Association of Canada and don't know about their event, check them out. Brent is deeply involved in that as well, and they just had it a couple weeks ago. But Brent, let's talk about you first. You've got this great company, and we're going to dive well deep into that. But before we do, tell them a little bit about your personal background.
Yeah, no, thanks, Don. Well, I think I was an unlikely drone subject matter expert. I started out as a farmer that became a commercial pilot, and commercial pilot that became an aviation entrepreneur. Had a charter company, doing that type of work, and we saw the need to get into aviation safety. In Calgary, Alberta, of course, we're real oil and gas hub, and oil and gas clients of ours and energy sector clients, they're very particular and process focused when it comes to a corporate aircraft, whether it's a helicopter, private jet, or just a regional aircraft flying workers to site. And and so we got introduced to the International Oil and Gas Producer Standard, Aviation Safety Standard, IOGP. And we were building up a safety company to audit these operators. And yeah, it was going along nicely, and we wanted to have some automation. So I found a business partner, Jesse Cornelson, brilliant guy, a commercial pilot as well. And so he's we took the software angle and worked with that. And it wasn't long, and we got I guess I don't say sucked into, but drawn into drones, into that space. So no, it's an exciting space, and so yeah, the entrepreneurial journey continues.
Wow, what a journey. I mean, starting as a farmer, then to this aviation entrepreneur, then kind of dipping into software. And I know that's kind of where you stand there, but really at the nexus, honestly, of all of those things when you think about it. So it makes an abundant amount of sense, this journey you've had. And by the way, Brent, and everybody else out there, we are live, and Fly Girl is saying, hi, Dawn. Hi, Fly Girl. Thank you for joining us. Appreciate you guys. Keep the comments coming. We love that. We love that. Absolutely. So let's talk about safety, right? Safety is 100% the North Star of aviation, whether we're talking, manned aviation or, drones or emerging aviation like air taxis that are, on the horizon. Tell us a little bit about, then your inspiration to create Flight Insight along this kind of, entrepreneurial path.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, if you want to just be a consulting company, you could get a small team, one or two guys, and your cell phone and your laptop, and you can go out and do safety audits and so on. But if you want to scale, you want to build a team, you want to effectively just stay current, in my opinion, you want to use the tools that are out there. And the initial vision was, why can't the safety auditor show up at helicopter company ABC with an iPad? instead of the notepad and going through, you know, all the paperwork and giving them a binder at the end of the day, why not like a safety audit, that lives in the cloud and is really a living document. If the
Yeah.
chief pilot changes, that's something, that should be updated, within 30 days. If you add a new piece of equipment to the fleet, just got two new Lear 40, good used Lear 45s or a D650, add that to the system in real time. So your
Yeah.
clients and those who want to, see the due diligence you're doing, that they know that. I mean, these private aircraft operators, they put a lot of time and resources into safety. Not all private charter operators are required to have a safety management system, at least in Canada anyways. The airlines do, but the more forward-thinking ones do embrace safety management systems. And I was with a charter company one time, and we used the term "audits are us." Come on in, audit us, so that you're happy with us, and that we're constantly learning, and we're hoping that you can identify something, an area of improvement. So that's the attitude, that's the mindset, that's the culture that we're ultimately looking for, and that we want to be a part of nurturing and advancing.
Yeah, so I imagine, Brent, right, as the world has evolved and aviation has evolved, and these energy clients, which initially were your kind of target market, if you will, using these charter aircraft or these different types of aircraft. At some point, they all started using drones. And so, you had your manned aircraft that you've been flying and you were familiar with, and you had helicopters in the fleet, and folks that you worked with. And then all of a sudden, drones started entering the scene. And so, you guys are focused on safety initially, doing these audits. Tell me how this kind of drone evolution has, or really revolution, I think, in a way, has impacted then what you do or what you chose to do and focus on at Flight Insight.
Yeah, certainly. I I was out for a coffee with a couple of chief pilots for some local flight departments. Each flying like a Dassault Falcon for their day job. And yeah, we had our heads in manned aviation space. I stepped away from the conversation for a few minutes, and then I came back, and I almost felt like I was interrupting, even though I'd been gone for 2 minutes. And they were a little bit hushed, and they said, "Well, look, hey, listen, we got a new problem, and it's drones." And
Yeah.
I was like, "Okay." I knew this day was going to come, and
Yep.
they said, "Yeah, like we appreciate you being able to do, safety audits on air operators and all that, but we've got a drone problem here." And in fact, these are large multinational corporations, and they had to ground their drone fleet as a preventative measure, because, and I didn't find out that day. It was only took about a year for them to open their lips on that and tell me what happened, but it was a near miss with the drone and a manned aircraft. And
Oh,
often,
yikes.
often that's what we need. Disappointingly, is a scare. Hopefully, it is only a scare
Yeah.
for this to be embraced. I mean, the forward thinking, can do their own risk assessments and critically think this through. That, hey, you can't just have these pieces of hardware up there flying and expect it. There's not going to be any risk.
Yeah.
So we found our background from private aviation, charter aviation, and so forth. Was a risk uh, wise, mindset that we could bring to drones.
Yeah. Well, super smart. And first of all, as I was listening to you, Brent, and the tight-lippedness of what I can only assume were your clients. I mean, here you are, the auditor, and they just had a near miss with between a manned aircraft and a drone. And I used to work, by the way, when I was in the Air Force for the Inspector General, and we had literally had a patch. It was like a kind of a joke, tongue in cheek. We're here to help. You know, but like people see the IG and everybody puckers like, oh my God, am I in trouble? Like, what are they going to be looking at? So I understand why they'd be hesitant to tell you this for a long time. It's unfortunate though at the same time, and luckily nothing else
Mhm.
happened in the interim. But you know, so this kind of introduction to the drone community was one that involved a near miss. You know, there you are, you know, steeped in safety with Flight Insight and doing these audits. How did you then start incorporating, you know, this idea of airspace awareness, this idea of safety holistically in one, you know, one particular area for one company into your business model?
Yeah, no, certainly. Well, it had to start at the policy level.
Yeah,
Uh, you know, you've got to have a policy. And
yeah,
if you don't have a policy, you know, it's just a moving target.
yeah,
You know, and you know, it was, you know, it's pretty straightforward template for us, and that we could take our experience with manned aircraft and revise to custom tailor it, you know, for drones. And in some ways it was easier. In some way there, you know, there were some different nuances, you know, shorter flight times, battery life, you know, there's considerations on the ground. You know, we all appreciate that an aircraft takes off at an airport, flies up at 40,000 feet and then lands in another airport. Where
yeah.
drones, you could take one off in your back, you know, yard, Don. I could take one off down the street. That
Oh,
they're
yeah.
they're they're everywhere, and there's you might be following every law, but there's still a social acceptance to them.
True.
And if you're an enterprise organization, you're concerned about your reputation as well,
Yeah.
and being your reputation and being a good neighbor, um, just being responsible. So, and there were those nuances that had to be considered in building out the policies.
So there you were, you know, you kind of had this auditing niche, I'll call it. And then, you know, you layer into it a policy piece, you know, besides after the fact looking at your operations or upfront, we're also going to help you build them in a safe way that's consistent with the standards of manned aviation or general aviation, commercial aviation that you were so familiar with. How then did the software become a part of that too? In other words, you know, you mentioned like the auditing, you automated a lot of that through software. Now you're doing some policies. At what point did you kind of coalesce all that into something?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so if you've got your policy, you've got to ensure compliance to the policy. And you know, we had a client one times that approached us, you know, and said, "I'm interested in your system." We said, "Well, what have you got? Have you got a policy?" They said, "Yeah, okay, well, that's good. So how are you ensuring compliance to policy?" And they said, "We're using hydraulics." We're kind of like, hydraulics. Well, you know, Excel spreadsheets and email and so on. So, okay, you know, we got the picture pretty quick that, you know, this was effectively one person or going to become a person's full-time job, just communicating
Yeah.
and handling this. And, you know, the person's going to go on vacation, they're going to get sick, their cell phone battery is going to die, and so on. So if we had a software as a force multiplier, for
Yeah.
everyone in the system to have, you know, their pane of glass that they could look at, you know, pre-flight, everything from, you know, the, you know, compliance piece, your insurance, your pilot training, your drone registration, this type of thing, ensuring that that's all complied to within your pre-flight, and then effectively communicating with the greater neighborhood of other drone operators, manned aircraft, ground operations. As you can appreciate in the energy sector, there's some highly complex environments.
Oh, yeah.
You know, one group we work with, they have, you know, a 6,000 foot airstrip where you've got airliners coming and going in and out of. You've got
Gee.
helicopters. You've got heavy equipment all over, and you've got drone pilots and a number of entry points into the use of a drone. You know, the environmental guys might be using it, the construction guys. You know, and we were dealing with
Or
what I
Brent, like you
call.
said, some random kid nearby, like that just got it for like the holidays, you know, like So there's a lot going on there. We just had a slide up. I want you to walk us through this because I think it speaks to your software specifically. If we could put that one back up. There we go. Walk us through this a little bit in terms of the tailored software you created for the as you guys in Canada call it RPOS, we call it drones or UAS, that life cycle.
Yeah, no, certainly. Yeah, I'm sorry about the RPAS. When we came up with that acronym, remotely piloted aerial system, I just started using drones because I'm like, I'm not switching between UAS, UAV, RPAS all the time. So we just went drones. But no, it's so you've got the slide there, and again, think enterprise user. If you're a
Yep.
local real estate agent, you've got one drone. This isn't something that you're gonna want to use. We're saying if you've got 15 drones or more, uh, this is where the enterprise tool can make sense. So yeah, so policy compliance. Now we want to get to work. So your drone pilots show up and on site, and let's they've got their training, they've got their insurance. That's all good. So now they're going to go flying. They can build a polygon, log in, build a polygon of where their flight's going to be, or any kind of predetermined or saved flight plans, and
Mm-hmm.
then by saving that into the system, it can be set up to notify the balance of the team that needs to know. Or they can also be passive users that can just log in and just kind of check. But now you're tracking, and it's it's passive in the sense that it's not, well, we have a real-time portion which we'll get into, but your flight plan's in the system and it says at this date, at this time, at this place, this is where you're going to be flying, and anybody that's relevant can see that. So that's a
Yeah.
key piece.
And then it does the systems check and flight checks. So like, if you will, all the pre-flight stuff. Let's talk about live tracking. I want to take a slide down for a second because, as they say, a picture paints 1,000 words, and I think we have a really cool video that might illustrate that. So let's roll a video, and then Brent, you can kind of walk us back talking about that. So let's go ahead and roll it.
Aerial awareness is fundamentally important to the safety and security of your project. Adverse flight events can have a devastating and lasting impact. The stakes are too high to allow drone operator oversight to compromise your team's safety and company reputation. We're introducing a brand new tool to manage this risk. In an effort to reduce aerial hazards, mitigate organizational exposure, and improve response time to adverse flight events, Flight Insight developed a technology that will change the way we think about safety and drone-to-drone or drone-to-operator communications. Meet EchoTech, elevating your environmental awareness and identifying potential hazards in industries like mining, oil, utilities, agriculture, construction, forestry, and the private sector. This is a new level of aerial intelligence that ensures the success of your project without compromising the safety of your employees and contractors. EchoTech confidently secures and monitors your airspace with effortless real-time tracking and accuracy. Advancing aviation safety.
A lot of different markets also noted on there. Agriculture, going back to your farming roots. But before the show, Brent, you mentioned public safety, and I got to give a shout out to my buddy Fire Mech Tech Rob. He's out there. One of our super fans met on Clubhouse years ago. Got to see him in person. Multiple conferences. He's saying hi on great topic and insight. No pun intended, because we're talking a flight insight. Get it? So really cool video. Shows a little bit. You got the helicopter, you got the drone, and clearly they call it the Great White North for a reason. So tell us a little bit more. Like, let's unpack that video.
Yeah, no, certainly. So, advancing the system beyond, I'm a drone pilot and my flight's in the system.
Yeah.
How about tracking me real time?
Yeah.
Um, so we worked with, a key um, associate of ours, Suncor Energy, and actually that whole video was filmed at Firebag, one of Suncor's major projects. And you mentioned Geneviève de Canberra at the beginning of the
Yeah.
show, Don. And Geneviève has spearheaded a leading drone program in Canada, um, thousands and thousands of drone flights a year, done
Yes.
safely. But they've got the
And by the
attitude.
way, not just in Canada, Brent, you know this. They're in Colorado. They're in the U.S. too.
Mm,
We had Tedman Jess from Suncor on the show last year. They sponsored Energy Month, and Tedman was also involved in our Law Tech Connect workshop on our energy panel. So I love that guy. He's just a bundle of energy, and Genevieve, like all the great things they're doing there at Suncor. So yeah, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I had to say and guys, if you haven't seen that show, there's articles on Autonomy Global about Suncor and all these energy ops. Check it out. Really great stuff if this is your jam. But go ahead, Brent. Keep talking.
yeah, well, no, I don't think you can understate what Geneviève, Tedman, and Chad have done as a team there. And you can see, harsh environments. We all, the group of us are always asking, well, can it fly in minus 30 degrees Celsius or minus
Mm,
40? We've got Fahrenheit and Celsius covered.
yep.
And we always, whenever we're checking out tech or whatever, we're waiting for the response on that because it's going to get trialed in that type of environment. So,
Yep.
but but no, yeah, and even just a shout out for these guys a minute here. I mean, they announced thousands and thousands of man hours reduced to exposure, high risk exposure at their sites, and like you said, Don, in Canada, in the United States, in Colorado, there and across North America. And they're just a great example of what's being done. So we worked together with them and said, how can we track the drones real time? Of
Yeah.
course, now, in the States, you've got remote ID enabled, or it's a requirement for drones. In Canada, we don't, it's not a requirement. I would really like to
Okay.
see it happen. I really like to see it happen here. I think it's a great capacity building exercise for the industry.
Yeah.
Again, true UTM, we're all, working that through. And here's where the initiative came from is let's we can't control the airspace. That's the regulator, Transport Canada, the FAA, but we can
Yep.
manage it. If you can control the ground, you can have some influence over managing the airspace. And what we need is an agnostic tracker.
Yeah.
So for those drones that are out there saying, here I am, here I am, here I am, a beacon, remote ID, whatever, of course you look at cellular, you look at satellite and so on. But the point is the drones has the agnostic tracker on it. And helicopters, that way we can communicate with the ground crew, other drone pilots, and helicopters that may be in the area. And in Canada, we don't have an ADS-B requirement for helicopters. Again, another thing I'd like to see the regulator push for. Again, it's a
Mhm.
capacity building thing. So, yeah, but again, now as you saw in the video, you're a rotary pilot. You've got your iPad. You can see what's going on real time. So,
Now, Brent, is this called the Flight Insight Portal? And if so, like, how is this different from the Echo Tech? At the end of your video, you had Echo Tech. Explain those two things: the portal that you have and Echo Tech, and how they work together.
yeah, Ecotech, I mean, it's a trademark name, but I'll be honest, for us, it was really a means to an end.
Okay.
It not so much a product we are selling right now. We're not in the hardware business. We're in the
Yep.
software compliance, regulatory, that type of thing. So we actually, took the bull by the horns and were able to partner with a communication engineering firm and develop that Ecotech tracker. There's some others on the market that we're seeing that are lighter, and so, again, we're agnostic to it. If we can white label that product or bring that product in, that's fine. But we needed something to kind of promote what we're doing there as a form of regional UTM. So, and that's where the Ecotech name come from. But we're not, I guess, overly attached to that brand, so to speak.
I understand. So the Ecotech is basically the squawking mechanism for what? For helicopters, planes, and drones. And then you can see all of them through the Flight Insight portal.
That's correct. Yeah, as long as you've got cellular service.
Okay, gotcha. Tied to cellular, understand. And you basically worked with other engineers, and frankly, one of the bigger stakeholders, in the energy sector, Suncor, to find a problem and develop a solution for it, based on their feedback. So that's super cool. So Ecotech, I know you're not wedded to Ecotech, but just to be clear, this is a wireless technology. What does it exactly enable? It enables drone to drone comms, drone to operator comms, all of the above.
Yeah, all of the above.
Okay.
Yeah, and
Cool.
and I remiss if I don't use the term, and we might get this a little bit later, but single pane of glass. I'm a drone pilot. I'm at site. I want to see what the other drones are doing. I want to see what the helicopters in the area are doing. This is a very complex environment. The airplanes that are coming and going. So that single pane of glass is what matters. And this has been a key thing for us, Dawn, is that little acronym API, Application Programming Interface, where we can plug in other data sources, whether it's, just something as simple as the weather. Our clients have asked us about wildfires. We need to know where the wildfires are because you can't fly within a 5 nautical mile radius of a fire. That was an interesting exercise because, a wildfire isn't just a pin on a map.
No.
It's actually kind of once it really gets going, an octopus looking thing. It looks more like the Great Lakes on the map. So we had to build it out so that it would automatically put hash marks 5 miles from each of those kind of arms that were coming off of the fire. So the drone pilots were staying clear of that type of thing. And
very cool. Speaking of fires, Fire Mech Tech Rob has a great question, so I'm going to ask it. Brent, does the Flight Insight Ecotech device interact, or is it recognized by any of the other current drone platforms used by many first responders, such as DJI, Autel, DroneSense, etc.?
Yeah, that's the beauty of it. It's completely agnostic. You can put it on any drone. It's effectively its own ecosystem. Like you attach it to any drone. You can attach it to a pickup truck if you want. You can attach it to a helicopter. It does not matter, and it's out there reporting. Here I am. This is my position.
So you've basically created. This is so interesting, Brent, because you and I haven't talked for a while, and I'm learning as I go right now, like listening to you. Great question from Rob. NASA had this big project about, like, they called it mobile UTM, and I forget the name of the project and who was involved in it, but I feel like this is what you're doing basically, right? You've created, a mobile UTM mechanism, and also that, to use your words, a single pane of glass through which to view it, for all kinds of enterprise stakeholders. Super cool. And I think we have a really cool image about vertical airspace slices that might be a great way to also further elaborate on how all this works. So let's go ahead and put that image up, the vertical airspace slice image about the networks. Here we go. So, give it an example, Brent, as to, in action, how all this is coming together.
Yeah, so I mean, we want to know where each piece of hardware, to use a more generic term, is in time and space. Its altitude, its lat and longitude, and its heading, and its its approximate speed. if I'm a helicopter pilot, I'm flying at 1,000 feet AGL, and I've got my iPad up. That's effectively sort of my visual into what the drones are doing. I see there's a couple drones, up ahead. Well, what are they doing? So I can monitor them that way. And as well, in an ideal situation, that drone pilot on the ground is monitoring the helicopter as well. And so, again, this all comes back to aviation safety. In theory, everyone should be, if they're following the rules, they should be safe. That drone pilot is, no more than 400 feet, though the helicopter pilot could go below that. Yeah, and this gives you capacities. You could see in the slide, the middle for like autonomous, corridors. We've got a lot of horizontal infrastructure, whether that's a pipeline, whether it's transmission lines for utility right away. You have equipment, manned or unmanned, flying scheduled down those right of ways, autonomously. And again, that's just one other actor that's can be plugged into the single pane of glass.
Yeah, very cool. Rob had another question, and then I want to pop up the next slide too to elaborate further on what you're talking about. But Rob's question was, in terms of weight and water resistance ratings, do you have that information in terms of smaller drones?
Yeah, forgive me, you just broke up a little bit there. Like, was it water resistant ratings?
Yeah, it's weight and water resistance. Everybody, this is live, and I'm at a VRBO in Boulder, Colorado right now, and I keep getting little notes like low bandwidth or something. So I apologize. But yeah, Rob has asked, what are the weight and water resistance ratings, especially when it comes to smaller drones with your tech?
Yeah, no, great question. Yeah, so the weight is like 65 grams, so it's heavier than we like. And in fact, like I said, we're not a hardware company. We found some other providers out there, sub 20 grams that we're looking at substituting in. It's fine. It's still kind of, it completes the Ecotech mission. And then, water resistance rating, I don't have like an ISO for you, Rob. I'm sorry, but we have trialed at least our own product in cold weather, which is, has a big impact on battery life. And yeah, I mean, it'll send out signals all day long. So that part's been good. And just myself, I was just looking at the units here just the other day. They look fairly like sealed. If it's pouring rain, you're probably not flying your drone anyways. But mist, light rain, anything like that, it looks very promising.
Very cool. Very cool. All right. So you created this whole ecosystem, we'll call it. What has been the ROI, the return on investment in terms of safety?
Yeah, well, I meant since we bring up our good friends at Suncor, I mentioned this earlier, Tedman's statement about thousands and thousands, of man hours, where maybe you're doing a flare stack inspection. That's a high risk environment. Your safety gearing up to inspect that flare stack, to get up on the scaffolding and so on. Confined spaces, again, high risk environments. So thousands and thousands of man hours of exposure to these high risk environments has been reduced. And that's not even including the air to air risk mitigation. We had a story too. One time, a group come to us. The safety auditor was standing at a helipad. He was actually reviewing the helipad, and a drone flew right over. And he said,
Oh my goodness gracious!
Does that drone pilot know that there's a helipad here, that any minute a helicopter pilot could be arriving or departing?
Yep.
Type of thing. So that's maybe a little hard to quantify the risks that we've mitigated there, but our partners and clients, they at least have control of their destiny in this area.
Yeah.
I used to call it drone creep. You know, a construction guy would show up or an environmental guy would show up and like, hey, you got a drone flying. What's going on here? And they're like, well, it's a toolbox item for me. Of course I have a drone. And they're like,
Yeah.
well, okay, we signed a contract. Your purchase order is for environmental work, not drone flights. So, you know, we help groups get ahead of that quickly.
Yeah.
You know, just ask the question, you know, on the entrance for any you know, contractors or vendors, you know, do they fly drones? And if so, you're ahead of it. You get them in the system so that you don't have any you know, unmanaged flights out there.
You know, that's an excellent point, Brent. You know, I think most people, when they think about an enterprise or even public safety, or just pick a particular sector, and they have a drone program, you know, but they also have other things going on. And like you said, those vendors or those contractors or partners may very well have their own drones that they're bringing to the table that people don't even think about initially, like, you know, whether they're doing some kind of inspection or, so to be able to incorporate all that into your system, I think is really key. Our time is running short, Brent. Like, I knew it would fly, and but I want to be clear, before we close out, the various stakeholders that benefit. The first one, I know you said you're all about enterprise, but within those enterprises, right? You've got your individual pilots, you've got your, let's call them flight managers or program managers, and other maybe senior leaders. All these people want the information, the data that your system can provide. Tell us a little bit more about the pilot app. Let's go to pilot level, that tactical level first, and what that does for the pilot.
Yeah, that was a big push for 2025. It's a bit of a grind. We do have the app live. We're just working through the App Store and Google Play to get that rolled out there. I guess, we didn't realize there's such a process with Apple, just working through their internal machinations to get it at the App Store. But the app is going for a number of our members, and they're using it. And yeah, the feedback's starting to come in. But again, we live in a world where everyone's got a cell phone. You might not always have a laptop, or it might be inconvenient to have a laptop. So you just pull that phone out of your pocket, and your enterprise, your fleet management, your advancing drone oversight, right there on your phone.
That's amazing. So this is a new thing this year, this 2025 rollout of the app, as yet another mobile pane of glass that people can be using with Flight Insight. Very, very cool. As you look forward, we're almost at the end of the year, which is very hard to believe. As you look forward to 2026, and you look into your crystal ball or your whiteboard for Flight Insight, what do you think we can expect going forward?
Well, we've got our word for 2026 already, and it is very simply accelerate. We're expecting, if anything, if Aerial Evolution Association of Canada, 2 weeks ago here in Edmonton was any indication, our space that we all are here in, robotics, drones, autonomy, it's going to be accelerating at an incredible rate. What we want to be doing is just really focusing on that single pane of glass, APIing in, the various AI softwares that are out there, whether it's, GIS, inspection, and so on, horizontal infrastructure inspections and whatnot, that those can be, single paned, collected at our through our system. So we're expecting exciting things, and we're ramping up our developers for 2026 to be ready for that.
Well, I love that because, both Canada, United States, and other places globally, they're really moving forward on beyond visual line of sight. And something like Flight Insight is, for enterprise partners, huge in terms of those flights and deconflicting airspace and UAS traffic management, all of it. So that's really exciting that you're looking at accelerating, integrating things like AI and GIS and all of these other things into your software to make it really like a 100% one-stop shop place where clients can go and feel very secure in the safety of their airspace for their fleet and whatever else happens to be flying in the way. Brent, as you know, one of the things we haven't really talked about, but I'm just curious, um, you know, counter UAS, is that something you're looking to maybe, when I say counter UAS, airspace awareness and protection, the ability to see these things, whether remote ID or without it, and possibly trigger something else, like if a group has the authority to do like RF cyber takeover or something like this for those safety purposes. Is that something you're looking at doing as well in the future, incorporating?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, we'll have to see how it plays out. And we don't have anything specific right now. I mean, obviously, we're one piece of that because, all counter UAS requires, awareness and intelligence of cooperative or non-cooperative
Yeah.
actors. And if you can go to your single pane of glass and say, okay, what are my operations doing? And you have,
Yep.
have a high level of confidence that you're managing that, you can say, okay, I know what we're doing. And then you can look outward and see, what the rest of the world may be doing, because, as we know, airspace is democratized federally. But if I know what my assets are doing, manned and unmanned, then I can make some decisions about what isn't. Yeah, but we're watching it. We're attuned to it. And again, just kind of, not to beat the drum too long, but the single pane of glass, if there's something out there that we could plug into the system to show that, absolutely we'll do that. So.
All right. Very cool. Very cool. Well, big things coming, big things already happen. I love the arc of your story from, farming to entrepreneur to charter aviation to this kind of safety niche, then linking it to software, then that drone injection into all of it, and how you've integrated all of those things in your experience into what you're doing now. So, Brent, super cool. We've got literally 2 minutes left. And so, what I want to do is cede the floor to you to make any closing comments. And please, please, please be sure to tell people how they can learn more about Flight Insight and how, of course, they can reach you.
Yeah, no, thanks, Don. Yeah. I mean, you just Google Flight Insight, flightinsight.io, just like it sounds, Insight, INSIGHT. And so, no, reach out. If you can't find us, ping Dawn. She'll send us our way. We just love to have conversations.
That's
We're
right.
we're very collaborative. We're looking to learn ourselves, and that's it. Just reach out. Happy to talk and see what you're doing. Share with you with what we're doing. Very, very excited about the year ahead and how I think just the timing of our industry as a whole, and I think a lot of us feel this as well. Even going back to Energy Drone Robotics Summit in Houston, there or the Woodlands, Dawn. I mean, look forward to seeing you again there in June. But no, this, we've all, those of us have been this at a long time. We've been waiting, and 2026, I think, is going to be a very exciting year for really the acceleration of drones, robotics, autonomy, and the whole subject here.
I love it. And you are accelerating safety in that space. So thank you for what you do, Brent. Thanks for being on the show. Thank you, everybody, for chiming in. FireMech Tech Rob and Fly Girl, we love you. And everybody else out there, stay tuned. Next week, we're going to be talking to an interesting group called The Hive out of Grand Forks, North Dakota. So check out next week's show. Put that on the, kind of the to-do list. But in the meantime, everybody have a great rest of your week. Brent, thank you so much. We are out here.